The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Start from the beginning. What is this cold case squad that you had look at the president's birth certificate, and what did they come up with?
Well, first of all, we have about 3,000 Posse members, have a cold case posse. They work for nothing. They're ex-cops and attorneys, and I decided when the Tea Party, about 250, asked me to investigate the president's birth certificate, and I decided to give it to the cold case posse so it would not cost taxpayers any money. They started the investigation in August. I gave instructions to do everything they can to clear the president on this issue, but as they dug into the investigation, they came up with some evidence which tends to probably indicate that the birth certificate and the selected service form could be forgeries.
So a lot of people have heard about this controversy before, and they've also heard about, document examiners and experts in this field saying that no, this long form birth certificate is legitimate. What do you say to the people who say you're just digging up something that's already been refuted?
Well, I don't know, refuted by who? There's never been a law enforcement agency looking into this matter. So you can get all these opinions from different so-called experts, but we looked at it and our people feel, and I'm not going to get into all the technical details, that it is a computerized, initiated birth certificate.
Why now? Obviously, this controversy has been brewing for a number of years. Why are you just now sort of jumping into the fray with this birth certificate controversy?
Well, nobody came to me before. When you get 250 of my constituents that come to me and say, at least look into it, why not look into it? I didn't throw in a wastebasket. When they come to me asking me to look at a possible violation of the law, I did it. But once again, I gave it to the volunteer posse.
And what do you say to critics there in Maricopa County who say, you have millions of people to look after, millions of constituents, and in a big city like Phoenix, in a big county like Maricopa County, Arizona, there are murders and rapes and robberies all the time that you should be pursuing, and your critics will say that this is a needless distraction from the work of a sheriff?
Well, once again, this is a volunteer group of people. It's not costing the taxpayers any money. I mean, we investigate every crime, whether it's prostitution, drugs, or whatever. So I don't know. Well, that's what I say to the people. This is just another investigation that we are doing, and it's not even costing taxpayers any money. I mean, why don't we say, why do cops go after hookers and DUIs and all these minor things and not concentrate on murderers? My answer to those critics.
Your critics have also said that this is not your jurisdiction. You're not, a federal law enforcement agent anymore. I know you used to be, and you're not in the state of Hawaii where these birth certificates were generated. So is this really your jurisdiction?
Well, I think we have standing when the president, the White House goes public and shows a birth certificate saying it's a valid birth certificate. That affects everybody in this country, including Maricopa County, if it is not valid. So we do have standing here. I'm looking out at the people of Maricopa County.
And what's the reaction been over these last few weeks since you announced the findings of your cold case posse? What have you heard from constituents across Maricopa County?
Well, wherever I go, people commend me for doing this. Naturally, it's been probably the biggest censorship or blackout in the history of journalism when no one from the national level will cover this story. When I do something, whether it's selling pink underwear or chain gangs or what I feed the inmates, that goes national. I've been on 4,000 international profiles, international and national. And yet this has been blacked out when I'm investigating this situation.
But the whole controversy about the president's birth certificate has been covered by news outlets in the United States for years. Most recently, when Donald Trump brought it up as an issue, and when you brought it up as an issue, you say that there's a media blackout or censorship, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of news outlets who have been covering this story.
Well, I wish you would tell me who they are. I'm sure it's not national. CBS, ABC, cable. Just show me who's been covering it. They haven't been covering, and I'm not going to get into inside sources that say that they don't want to cover it. That's another issue when you're talking about the media. But where's all the news? You're calling me, and you're dealing with Russia. So I have to talk to Russia to get the story out.
So are you saying that you haven't received any inquiries from any American news organizations about this story?
No, yeah. We get some talk shows. But I haven't been called by any major networks or cable. I'm on cable all the time, Fox, CNN, and where are they? They're not calling me. They call me for everything else. You would think this would be of interest, especially the latest investigation on the selected service card that I just put out. But I don't see any uproar. I see webs and I guess other news outlets like yours, but I don't see any major outlets talking about it. Well, you had a press conference March 1. Media was all over the place. And now they showed up for it to insult me and not look at the facts of the evidence that we put on the screen. They didn't question the evidence, which is interesting. They want to question what my motives were. And like you said, that everybody else has already reviewed this. Who's everybody else? I don't see Donald Trump. You're saying that is he a law enforcement guy? No. Actually, he sent me a note last week commending me on doing this. So maybe he figures there's some smoke out there.
In the weeks and months after Donald Trump brought this up as an issue now almost a year ago, there were a lot of news organizations who did their own investigations. I remember CNN in particular, and came to the conclusion that this is a valid birth certificate. Do you think it's possible that they've concluded that this issue is just a non-issue?
Well, why would you look at CNN, a news outlet, and talk about their evidence when you rather talk to a law enforcement agency? Who has more credibility, CNN or the law enforcement agency?
Well, some would say an elected official who is by definition a law enforcement agent and also a politician running for re-election has, another agenda as well. That's what a lot of your critics say.
I've been re-elected 5 times. I sure don't need this to get elected this year, believe me. I can get elected on pink underwear that I make the inmates wear. I sure don't need this issue. I'm doing something that I know that may be rather controversial, but when people came to me and asked me to look into it, why not give it to my volunteer posse? So I did. And I told them, I want you to clear the president on this birth certificate. But they're coming up with evidence that's not clearing the president. That's the way it is in law enforcement.
As you know, and as a lot of our listeners know, the Obama administration, in particular the Justice Department, has been investigating your department for a number of years, an investigation actually that goes back to the Bush administration. Do you want to clear the air? Is this political payback against the Obama?
Let's not go back to the Bush administration. There was a mayor here and a couple of other Democrats who went to the Justice Department at the latter part of Bush's term and complained about us, my office, allegedly racial profiling. They never contacted us. The Justice Department gets thousands and thousands of allegations. That doesn't mean they investigated it. It was 100 days after Obama took office that they launched the investigation. So I want to clear that up. And no, I'm not doing this because they've been looking at us. That has no bearing on this.
So this isn't in any way political payback against the president?
It's not against the president. I said over and over again, I'm not accusing the president of any crime. I'm investigating 2 possible forgeries of government documents. I'm not accusing him of being involved. Let's see what happens as we keep pursuing this. This isn't payback to the president. I do know he mentioned me at the White House 3-4 months ago. Doesn't like the way I'm doing my illegal immigration, but that's okay. Doesn't bother me at all what he says. I'm doing my job. Change the laws if you don't like what I'm doing.
It sounds like you have seen evidence that you think might lead you to believe that the president's birth certificate is a forgery, but you haven't concluded that for certain. What would make you certain that it's a forgery or that it is authentic?
Well, we've done our research. I think any amateur could look at what we presented and come to the theory that it's not the true birth certificate. You know, I don't run Hawaii, so I presume that we will be writing to Hawaii. And, you know, from day one, all I said, to clear the air, let's look at the microfilm in Hawaii. If the president was born in that hospital, look at the microfilm and prove it. That's all. We have two other twins that were born the day after, the day before. It shows that the microfilm shows that they were born. So let's see the microfilm. Forget the birth certificates if that's an argument. Show the microfilm, and that clears the air. Where is the microfilm?
As you know, your critics have also said that the gentlemen from the cold case volunteer posse that conducted this investigation have also now published a book that they're selling on Amazon for $10. Do you think that they had a financial motive?
Well, hold on. The investigative reporter, WND, has been looking at this for years. I do have some faith in investigative reporters. Sometimes they come up with good information like the Watergate. Nobody cared about the Watergate until two investigative reporters came up with evidence, and then everybody start looking at it. The reason this wasn't a book, this is a press conference that I held, and to get the word out, knowing that the main media would not cover this press conference. I guess they did it live on the internet, and this was not authorized by me, but they put you called it book, I called it like an enhanced press release. So the guy running this, my chief investigator, the ex-cop, he didn't make any money on this. This wasn't a real book. I'm not a technical guy, but it was, they called it a statement to get the word out.
But if they're selling it for $10 on Amazon, who's getting the money?
Well, I presume if anybody was getting the money, it wasn't my guy, but if he did, it would go towards expenses to develop the investigation, since we're not using taxpayers' money. If you want to talk about books, I see there's a lot of elected officials that write books while they're already in office and talking about their duties. So what is wrong if it did happen that my guy did write a short book to explain during the press conference what really happened, because we knew that the major media would not cover it, and I guess we were right because they are not covering it. At least other public avenues are able to look at this and have an idea what we're doing.
Well, Sheriff, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.